and welcome back to the NWA 1983 project. I'm your host, Juan Cena, and with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
It's my Hunger Down Hurricane Edition.
Oh boy. The hurricane season is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. What's up with that? So in this episode will be our first extremely large wrestling extravaganza live from the Los Angeles Coliseum and beautiful Los Angeles, California. Main event of this card is Harley Race taking on Roddy Piper for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And what I mean about big wrestling extravaganza is this is one of 4 WrestleMania type events that we'll be showcasing in 1983. Now you're telling me like there was only one pay-per-view style show in 1983, which was Starrcade 83, and you're correct. But again, we're changing history here. So our first one would take place in the summer of '83. It will be live from the Los Angeles Coliseum. Try to pack 100,000 folks in there. Doubt we'll do it. In terms of the show, we ran big venues before. Texas Stadium, the Superdome, those are all kind of preparations for this show. See, how do we light the arena, our camera angles, how are we going to do the music to get ready for this big extravaganza. And this will be the first time that we will have a wrestling convention type event also attached to this as well. Now, wrestling conventions weren't big in the early 80s. Basically what you had were like these fan club conventions. So we're going to try to attach it to one of those in Los Angeles and do your autograph signings and your meet and greets and and your brunches with the wrestlers. Really make it a destination event. A lot of people will be flying in, although LA is the second biggest market in the United States. So we should have a good we should be good in terms of attendance.
Nice.
Again, we've had 6 months of penetrating their TV in Los Angeles, promoting what we have to promote. We ran events before in Los Angeles, and we're hoping with all that we can get a good gate here. When we look at 1983 and totalitarian, that's governments. In total, you can consider it the last year of the territories. Now, you could argue 1983 is where the territories all died. You can make arguments for different times when it died. 83, you can say when Vince brought Georgia Championship Wrestling. You could say when Crockett appeared on TBS. You can claim it died when Crockett took over St. Louis and Kansas City and Florida. But for, I guess, the process, from my point of view, I think territories died basically directly after Starrcade 83. Once we get into 84, territories are done and dying in my book. Although there's still some territories who are doing some business. Mid-South will continue to do some business. World Class, AWA would do business for a little bit longer until the bottom falls out of that as well. So, but do you really consider those? They're territories, but they're a little bit bigger than territories. World Class already had national syndicated, TV. They have syndicated TV in Israel in Greece for some reason. It's really, they used to do tours in Israel. World Class. So TBS is nationwide. Crockett has a substantial syndication network. Bill Watts has a substantial syndication network. So I wouldn't put a lot of those promotions above what you consider a territory. AWA get ESPN in a few years. So the time is changing, ladies and gentlemen, and we want to be on the cutting edge of this change. We want to be in front of this change, and we're not going to let Vince McMahon and the WWF dictate the changes in professional wrestling. No, we are going to do that. Just screw that shit. So in looking at this event here, we would have to do nationwide closed circuit, and then in addition, because there's still not any pay-per-view, we wouldn't see actual pay-per-view till like 1985 with Vince's Wrestling Classic. We would have to not only have closed circuit, but I would like to get us on a paid tiered network. Would it be HBO or Showtime? Again, HBO and Showtime are sticking their toes in the water with professional boxing, and in some cases HBO had football too for a little bit. and people may not remember that. HBO also had wrestling in the 70s as one of their earlier products that they were able to present because, you know, James Dolan and Vince McMahon are friends. So maybe HBO wouldn't be our place. It'll probably be maybe Showtime or Cinemax, not Skinamax. One of those paid networks to get our show in homes on television nationwide. I'm not 100% sure on the penetration of homes they had at that point. I think HBO was pretty substantial. I think Showtime was pretty substantial. I think everyone else was kind of... No one had 100% penetration yet. I think that's the way to go for this event. And then we're going to slide right into our next, you know, giant event, which would be... Our big four events would be LA Coliseum, Texas Stadium, Superdome, and Shea Stadium. With a Starrcade as a lower tiered, but in there, because you have to have Starrcade. But that may be a fifth one as we move forward. So, you know, this is a small recap. Again, for those of you who haven't maybe watched the show before, again, the 1983 project is, you know, a fantasy booking reimagining of what would happen if the NWA went global first. To make that happen, we would have to consolidate our forces. So it would be Jim Crockett, Ole Anderson and the Briscoes and Georgia, Eddie Graham, Paul Bosch, Fritz, Bill Watts, Sam Mushnick, you know, Kansas City, the whole nine coming together and like, we're gonna do this, and kind of rebranding the NWA, you know, having legitimate NWA offices in Los Angeles, or Los Angeles will be our new home, because it is the second biggest market in the world, in the United States. So I think that was all really important. And having this big mega event, Los Angeles, may give us the easiest time getting access to celebrities. So, you know, it's 1983. Maybe we can get a Magic Johnson in the crowd. Maybe we can get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, O.J. Simpson, David Hasselhoff,
Bill Cosby,
and maybe Sylvester Stallone as well in the audience, or maybe as a guest ring announcer or against timekeeper. We could probably get Ali because we have a connection with Inoki. So, you know, there's a lot of different things we can do from a celebrity standpoint, because I think that's one of the things that made the WWF stand out. Although there have always been celebrities involved in professional wrestling even before that, would it be Joe Frazier as a guest referee, or, you know, Ali and Inoki. Ali spent a lot of time in Mid-South, believe it or not, because, you know, that is his kind of his area. A lot of them will usually be professional boxers or professional athletes who would come in and do stuff. But, you know, in terms of actresses, you know, actors, and maybe we get Michael Jackson. I don't know if Michael Jackson liked wrestling. Maybe he did. Who knows?
I can see him doing that. He liked kids. I mean, it's true. Kids
Still
like
too soon.
What?
It's too soon.
Too soon.
Oh boy.
That's true.
Now, in terms of things I've recently just watched, I once again watched the Big Turn of 1980. Now, if you've been listening to the show, you guys know that I'm a big fan of Georgia Championship Wrestling. Been watching it a lot as of late. In my opinion, Georgia Championship Wrestling from 1979 to 1983 is probably the best wrestling around. Again, that's my opinion. That is up for debate, big time. But, you know, and watching most of those shows are available. You can still find the majority of those shows, you know, on YouTube, online, somewhere. To really appreciate it, you know, I watch a lot. So I watched the entire year of 83 that I could find. I watched the entire year of 79 that I could find. And I watched most of 80. And the depth of talent they had, because TBS was funny. Georgia Championship Wrestling was funny because they would bring in guys constantly. They would rotate their roster fairly often. Guys wouldn't stay very long, but they would get fresh, you know, star guys in all the time. So you would see Terry Funk and Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, you know, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff, Tony Atlas, Kevin Sullivan, Hulk Hogan, you know, pretty regular basis. And, you know, they was basically, you know, there for 6 to 8 weeks, and they would leave. And, you know, new guys would come in. And it's just the amount of talent that you would see, like a Roddy Piper is on Georgia, commentating with Gordon Solie, and that shit blows my mind when I see it. Bobby Heenan, 1979. He's feuding with Stan Hansen, and Bobby's bringing in people to fight Stan Hansen. And it's like it's stuff that you don't really attribute or think about when you talk about Bobby Heenan. This is like his time in Georgia Championship Wrestling, closely associated obviously with the WWF, and then prior to that the AWA. So the big turn of 1980 is when Ole Anderson turns on Dusty Rhodes. A year prior, I'm talking 1979, Ole Anderson and Ivan Koloff are feuding with Dusty. And then Dusty would bring in, whatever partner he could find. So, again, this is like a staple of territory wrestling where the babyface doesn't have the odds in his favor. They would bring in a Bruiser Brody or Andre the Giant, or in some cases a Dusty Rhodes, but this time it's Dusty who needs backup here.
Yeah.
And he rotates a lot of partners, and then eventually they get to Bill Watts and they win I believe it was a bunkhouse match. Now, after the bunkhouse match, everything kind of settles down. Ole becomes... He wasn't even really a face, but he becomes like a commentator. As time progresses, he becomes more and more neutral. He kind of really cements himself as a babyface. Like, no big turn. He didn't really save anyone, but the crowd is definitely with him. Because if you guys ever heard Ole on the mic, he's one of the best talkers of all time. Period. He's fantastic. You also got to realize the state of the United States in 1979. In 1979, we're kind of beat up.
Yeah.
We still feeling the effects of Vietnam. We have the hostage crisis. Jimmy Carter's the president. People are not really feeling good about. Nationalism is down in 1979. That does change in 1980 when Ronald Reagan becomes president. The hostages get released, and the American hockey team beats the Russian hockey team, in the Olympics. That's a big fucking deal. So big they actually they talk about it quite a bit on Georgia Championship Wrestling, because you still had Koloff and Smirnoff there, and they would pummel whatever baby faces until America is going to rise up and finally take down these Russians. And they used Tony Atlas and Kevin Sullivan as the American representatives, America's team, which is weird and a little bit off-putting because Kevin Sullivan, he's the goddamn devil, and of course Tony Atlas is Tony Atlas. But seeing Kevin Sullivan with like a little American flag waving it, cutting promos with Tony Atlas, and they're doing training montages to the Rocky music to fight the Russians. They actually lose the tag belts to the Russians when Ivan Koloff uses ether to put out Tony Atlas. So. But during that time frame, Ole was very much like, he's very pro-America, very patriotic, very nationalistic. The crowd is really with him. He starts wrestling again pretty regularly, and then, he's teaming up with, Tommy Rich and Stan Hansen and whoever all the baby faces, that are, still around. He becomes friends with these guys. And the last guy to trust him was Dusty. Dusty didn't trust Ole Anderson because, again, they've been feuding the year before. It took about a year to finally Dusty say, "All right, Ole, me and you are going to take." Actually, it wasn't the Russians; it was the Assassins.
The Assassins, yeah.
Yeah. So Dusty finally ends up trusting Ole, and then it culminates to this tag team cage match where it's the Assassins and their special guest referee, Ivan Koloff, against Ole Anderson and Dusty Rhodes, with Gene Anderson as the special guest referee. So there's two special guest referees in the match. It's weird. But again, it plays out for this angle. They come down the ring, and before they even, the bell rings, they finally lock the doors, and Ole immediately turns on Dusty, and they beat the piss out of fucking Dusty Rhodes. 5-on-1, they beat the piss out of him. So we see people climbing the cage. The babyfaces try to get into the cage and break it up. They're getting punched off. Fans are climbing the cage. They're getting fucking punched off, and they beat the piss out of Dusty. Now, where the brilliance comes in on all this is Ole Anderson's promo the following week on Georgia Championship Wrestling, which I'm going to insert now.
Get yours. You're going to get yours, Ole. Not from you.
Well,
See you later. You're going to get it.
Bernie, thank you very much. Ole Anderson, of course,
There's
is...
no place for football players. Somebody trying to block him. They don't have to block him. He's not good enough to be a wrestler. Doesn't belong. And shouldn't get his chance. Why don't you be quiet for about 2 seconds and let me talk and say something? You know, you're talking about a leopard doesn't change his spots. You're exactly right. The leopards don't change their spots, and there's awfully good reasons. Dusty Rhodes himself was the one that said it could never be over. You just better give me the credit for being smart enough to outfox Dusty Rhodes. I want you to take a look right now at Dusty Rhodes. I brought something down that I had filmed a long time ago when I saw it. You take a look at what Dusty Rhodes says. His own words. His own words were, it'll never be over. Go ahead, show him.
Let me tell you what, a steel-toed boot couldn't take me out. I told you this thing will never be over. It will never be over. Both of them. They both of them will run up around. I can't stand it because the other one's always jumping in. Koloff, you broke your chain. You broke your chain. Whip me with a chain. Only Anderson laying down could not take me out with a steel-toed boot. Could not put me away with a steel-toed boot. And I'm going to say this right now and get it through your head until you have a broken back. Until you have a broken neck, until your bodies are broken and beaten, both of you, this thing will never be over.
Well, you proved it would never be over last Sunday night at the Omni, sir.
Dusty Rhodes' own words, it'll never be over. Well, I remembered all the time. I had to sit there and just go out of my mind when Tommy Rich was in my corner. Stan Hansen was in my corner. Tony Atlas, all of those people. I had to stand there and be with every one of them. Well, you're going to have to hear. You take a look right now and see what happened to Dusty Rhodes.
We're going to take
See what happened to Dusty Rhodes.
We're going to take a look at Brutus right now. Brutus in action here. The match is underway at the Omni. And Dusty Rhodes and the Assassins. Ivan Koloff is the special referee. And all of a sudden, Koloff starts interfering in this situation. Gene Anderson, who is one of the referees. And it's Dusty Rhodes battling all by himself. Where were you at this point, sir?
I was waiting for my spot, and here it comes. You look, you watch, you watch. I had to be a little careful because I didn't want everybody else jumping me. But Rhodes was right where I wanted him, right on his backside. And when I was kicking that face, then I said, Dusty, you remember you said it better than anybody else. It'll never be over until somebody's out of this business. And right there, you see Dusty Rhodes down, down.
Well, the Russian Ivan Koloff, I might mention, too, has made the statement repeatedly that he would stop Dusty Rhodes in his date with Destiny. But how can you? I don't understand you at all, Mr. Anderson. I don't understand.
Well, Gordon, for about a year, I had to stand right here and pretend I was your friend. I remember when you used to give me all those little smart comments. Well, now I don't have to pretend to be your friend because I never was and I never will be. And if you step your face in my way again, I'll do the same thing to you. And you can count on it.
Well, sir.
Yeah, that's sir. Thank you. Sir. You look right here. Here's that mealy-mouthed brother of mine, Lars. Lars coming in there, the do-gooder, the guy that I can't trust. No! Lars is no good, and Lars ought to be thrown out of wrestling. And if there's anything I can do to help get Lars out of wrestling, I will. Lars, Dusty Rhodes, the only guy I can count on is Gene, the Assassins, Mr. Koloff. Those are the people that I count as my friends. Lars is a turncoat, a traitor. You want Dusty, you want Lars, you don't know who you want.
Bad situation here for everybody, but more particularly, of course, for Dusty Rhodes himself. Dusty Rhodes putting his heart, his trust in his faith.
Koloff, my old partner, finally realized that all this time it was just a ploy to get Dusty Rhodes in the ring. I had to take a lot of hard knocks from Ivan Koloff. I had to take a lot of licks from the Assassins and everybody else, but I wouldn't tell them what was on my mind. I plotted and I planned. It took me almost a year and a half But finally, I got Dusty Rhodes where I wanted him. Nobody knew. The only man that knew was Gene Anderson. And that's why Gene Anderson hasn't been here for a year. Because he couldn't stomach the idea of me being in the ring with a guy like Tommy Rich or Stan Hansen or now our own brother Lars, Mr. Do-Gooder, Mr. Sir Galahad. I'll tell you what, why don't you give us a little relief? Go home or shut up or do
Well,
both.
I think it's time we listen to some comments.
I just want, you just take a look. Because even Koloff didn't know what I had in mind. Take a look. He was completely fooled, as was everybody else. Listen to what Koloff had to say.
Recently, I was given the great pleasure of being a special referee in the Georgia Tag Team title match between the Assassins, Ole Anderson, and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I was very impartial in my officiating of this match. At one point, I thought that Ole Anderson and Dusty Rhodes would capture the title. But being in a cage match, the great American Dream ran himself into a little trouble and couldn't get over for the tag to Ole Anderson. Finally, in making the tag, I couldn't believe what happened next. Ole Anderson turned on the American Dream and started kicking him and punching him. Now, all during this match, I kept the officiating very impartial, like I said before, even to at points pushing Ole Anderson out bodily when he made illegal moves into the ring. Now, I couldn't believe, like I said, I didn't suspect it for one moment, that Ole Anderson was going to double-cross Dusty Rhodes. And when he started putting the boots to him, I had such joy, such pleasure in my heart, and my blood ran with such warmth. I couldn't believe this. So I had to join in and started kicking the American Dream, taking my boots off and giving it to my old partner, Ole Anderson. And it was like old times. We were both there kicking the American Dream. I couldn't believe it. Ole Anderson, as rotten as you are, I know at last you've seen the way you should be. And I am so happy to see you this way again. The American Dream laying bloody on the floor at my feet, dragged from the ring, put on the stretcher to the dressing room, to the hospital.
Well, I suppose that makes you proud.
Makes me proud, yes, to be back with my old friends again. For a long time, I had to fool them and go around, like I said, with all these other people. The irony of it all is this. Tommy Rich asked me to be his partner, and I went, oh, yes, Tommy, I'd love to be your partner. Stan Hansen said, please, would you be my partner, Ole? And I said, certainly, Stan, I'm going to be on your side. But I was waiting. I said, how in the world can I ever get Dusty Rhodes? I was going to ask Dusty Rhodes to be my partner one day. And Gene says, no, wait, take your time. 9 months went by, and I still couldn't get near Dusty Rhodes. A year went by, and still Dusty Rhodes wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't come near me. But Tommy, Stan, a lot of other guys, they said, oh, yeah, come on. I rode a few places with him, hated every minute of it. But finally, I didn't have to ask Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes asked me to be his partner. He asked me, and I went with him 1 match and 2 matches, and finally I said, how about a fence, Dusty? We can keep those assassins in. And the idiot went for it. Dusty Rhodes, if it's the last thing I do, you're going to be out of wrestling permanently. Me, Ole Anderson, I'm going to see to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, after hearing those Judas comments from Ole Anderson, I'll tell you right now, Dusty Rhodes has some very, very strong comments to make and some big ideas for Ole Anderson.
You know, I'm standing right here. You know, a lot of people ask me, said, I told you so. Say, I told you it's going to happen. That's fine. I don't blame nobody but myself, you understand? I have no animosity to anybody but myself. Now, when I was walking through that airport, more or less almost crawling, being begged by some fans to go to the hospital, go to the doctor, say you can't breathe out of your nose, can't get yourself together, say go to the hospital, honey, go to the hospital, baby. I said I would not give him the damn satisfaction. The heaviest thing that ever happened to you is getting ready to come down on you. I need no help. I want none. I ask none. But in the Omni, Andre the Giant is going to be there with me, with both the Anderson brothers. And I'm going to bring this once pretty face to the Omni Friday night. And I'm going to stick it right up in front of you, Ole Anderson. And I'm going to look you right in the eye. And I want you to feel what I feel. Payback. Payback is hell, Daddy.
So essentially, Ole Anderson reveals that it was all a trick for, he pretended to be good so Dusty would trust him, so he can, get an opportunity to try to eliminate Dusty Rhodes from the sport. And I think the brilliance of this deal is that they had all the other people talk about what happened. So it doesn't exist in a bubble. Like, the heels are happy, the baby faces are pissed, and then we go on from there.
Yep.
But I think that's one of the greatest turns I've ever seen from start to finish that in the history of professional wrestling. So Matt, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it was well done. Again, they took the time to do it. A lot of the time nowadays, you feel like everything's rushed, or it's so telegraphed, and it's like you see it coming a mile away. But the most modern turn I can think of that was really out of nowhere was probably the Shield. Before that, my favorite turn was Barry Windham.
Barry, no.
But it's a really good thing to build the drama in the storylines. It's one of those things. People like the idea of former partners going at it or former foes joining forces. Like I was saying to one of the guys at work, because he was like, "Oh, I think McGregor's going to box anymore." He lost to Mayweather. I said he wants to make big money. Have him come out and introduce his new manager and have it be Mayweather.
Yeah.
People lose their mind. They would go out of their minds like, "But no, he's your enemy."
That's literally the plot of Rocky 3.
Only if Mr. T shows up and punches his wife in the face. Okay. Maybe he'll just go, "Hey, woman, you're fighting for the real man." I was coordinating this at work, and someone heard out of context. And they were like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Hey, woman." So I was stating character.
So I'm of the opinion that in that 4-year span that Georgia Championship Wrestling was the best wrestling for that period of time, surpassing WWF and Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. Can't really count Mid-South because Mid-South was on this ass during that time frame. They didn't pick up till '83. Maybe World Class, because I think the Freebirds Von Erich thing started in '82. But go watch some Georgia Championship Wrestling, guy. Fucking damn it, for real. Don't be a doofus. It's funny about Ole Anderson, and I've been watching a lot of his wrestling. His wrestling was actually really good. They break down a body part. It was menacing.
Right.
He was destroying guys in the ring. I'm like, why couldn't he be World Heavyweight Champion? And I think one of the reasons why he may not been considered to be NWA World Champion was the simple fact that I don't think he wanted to be NWA World Champion. I think he wanted to be a promoter. I think he wanted to be the boss, which he was. He ended up being the boss in Georgia, and then, various different times when he, be booking WCW. He is also the voice behind the Black Scorpion.
Sting.
He's also the voice of the Shockmaster.
Oh.
It's kind of like Dusty. Like, I always wonder, hey, how come Dusty Rhodes' world title runs weren't longer? Like, they're pretty short in length, and considering the time frame. We're talking about guys who have 3 to 4 year title runs.
Yeah.
And his runs are relatively short. But I think in Dusty's mind that the only thing that's better than being NWA World Champion is being Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
In his mind.
Well, I do think there are guys that get the idea. Sometimes if you're that good, you don't need the belt. The belt helps make a challenge.
Yeah, I think he wasn't going to put on 60-minute matches anyway all the time either.
Right.
He wasn't going to go out there and be Jack Briscoe. But I think having Dusty, and while I'm currently debating this in my head, who would I put the belt on to compete with Hogan? because obviously that guy is not Ric Flair, and I'm one of the biggest Ric Flair fans of all time, and it's not Flair's fault. It's the way he was booked. Ric Flair may be the greatest NWA World Champion of all time, but he was booked like shit, and it wasn't anyone's fault. It was probably Dusty's fault, but it wasn't really his fault either, because they booked Flair like they booked every other NWA World Champion they ever booked, right? He booked the same way. He wasn't booked any different. But when you get that national television, you're doing those pay-per-views, and the majority of your pay-per-views end up in a non-conclusive finish, or it's a fuck finish, or a Dusty finish, or whatever. You know, that shit fucking wears on you after a while. And it's like, it's almost like, and to find a more modern example, and this is the most modern example I could find, was watching old WCW Nitros. So WCW Nitro would advertise like these really fucking awesome main events. So it'd be like Hogan versus Luger. And they get 5 minutes into the match, and then the NWO does a run-in every fucking week.
Yeah, that also killed it.
And I was like, you never really got your main event. When it comes down to Flair, you got these main events, and you got these great matches, but there's no, it was like, okay, Dusty doesn't really win it this time. Luger doesn't really win it this time. Maybe that worked in the 70s, where you're going from territory to territories, but like I said, early 84, territories are dead. You know, you're focusing on national promotions here. I don't think Dusty knew how to book nationally like that. Where you needed, like, you can have your heat and whatever, but you didn't have to have the fans go home happy at some point. So when you're competing with Hogan, Hogan comes in, electrifies the crowd, has his 10-minute match, kicks someone in the head, leg drops him, it's over. The crowd is fucking insane, and they go home happy no matter what else happened on that fucking card.
Yep.
You know, imagine they put Hogan to do fucking 60-minute draws every fucking night. They would have fucking killed him. And he's capable.
Yeah.
To a degree, but fuck, if I can do what I need to do in 10 minutes and have the fans be happy and have them ready to come back for the next time to see me slay another fucking monster, then I'm wondering right now to myself, as we get into 84, who do I put the belt on? And that's going to be an ongoing topic or discussion moving forward. But Dusty was like that. Dusty is like, I only need 10 minutes, baby. That's it. You know what I mean? Although I wouldn't put the belt on Dusty in 84 because at that point, right about past his prime. So it's funny too because I'm watching Florida Championship Wrestling, or Championship Wrestling from Florida if you want to be a dick about it. And this has to be, it's around the same time as the Yellow Dog. So whenever that was, 83. So probably before Starrcade. And Dusty Rhodes cuts this promo about how the fans are booing him. So apparently they're fucking booing Dusty as early as 1983.
Really?
And we wouldn't see that in WCW until like 1987. He basically cut a promo saying how it looks like the fans are starting to get tired of Dusty Rhodes, but I will always be your hero. Was his promo. And then he says something really insane. Because he's talking about like Russian and the Russians or whatever, right? Because again, Russia, like it is today, was a very hot topic back then. So he's talking about, he's talking about Russia and how America's down and all this other shit. And he says, for a lot of people who don't like America, they need to go to Russia and see how it is. You need to go where the devil be at. I'm like, are you telling people that Russia's in league with the devil? Oh.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So, there's a 6-hour best of Florida Championship Wrestling on YouTube, which I saw that promo. It's about like 2 hours in. So it's like,
Is it as good as Hard Times?
No, because he's doing like Dusty Rhodes, like how he normally talks.
Yeah.
Like he's not cutting a promo. He's cutting a promo, but he's not Dusty. He's Virgil cutting a promo. Yeah. And not from the Olive Garden. I mean, he's just sitting there talking like, normal. And I think this is probably about, if I'm like, because it's like a 6-hour compilation, there's no like time cues to kind of figure out when exactly stuff happened.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find a clip anywhere else on YouTube to kind of date it. But I'm thinking he's explaining why he's not going to be in Florida that much anymore because he's going to book for Crockett. Maybe the fans are getting tired of me. Because he was on top there for fucking, when he turned 74? I think he turned babyface in 74. So he's been there for like 10 years on top.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's the thing too. It sounds bad to say, but like the inability by some promoters to recognize, especially guys that promote themselves, to recognize the value in like changing of the guard.
Yeah. You know what they did right after that too?
Oh no.
If I remember correctly, if I have my timelines correct, they brought in like a fake Dusty.
What?
Like they brought in a guy, not like they didn't. He was a different guy, but they brought in like a Kmart Dusty to feud with Kevin Sullivan. Like right after that, I forget who that was. Like, this is post Midnight Rider. This is post everything. So like Dusty's leaving, so they don't replace him. They should have got a wrestling babyface instead of trying to get like a replacement for Dusty.
Yeah.
I forget who that was.
It wasn't Dirty Rhodes. Wasn't that much of a blatant ripoff?
No. It's not the Northeast, and it's not 1988. It's not a Boston indie from the 80s.
Okay.
I'll figure that out at some point. I gotta listen back to my Kevin Sullivan shoot interview. I did watch this week I also watched a lot of championship wrestling from Florida. And they went through some weird names. So this is post 85. Eddie Graham is he passed away, committed suicide. And I think this is maybe when Jim Crockett bought it or before. It's like in between that, like, all right, it's like when Battle of Belts 1 happened, which is 85, I think. For, I guess, brief periods of time, they were known as the American Championship Wrestling. And then there were United States Championship Wrestling. For like brief moments. It's like, it's Gordon Soley and Mike Grant on commentary, and it takes place basically when Battle Belts 1, 2, and 3 happened. So right at that time frame. I do like Battle Belts 1 though. It has it's weird because it has I know 3 was Luger versus Flair. Yeah, that's Battle Belts 2, so it's 86. Because Battle Belts 2 had Wahoo versus Brody on that show too. Crazy hour draw. Like if Wyndham's gonna win it, he should have won it there. Battle Belts 2 in Florida. After that, it was too late. This is 1986, so he's back from the WWF probably right before he comes back to Crockett, I'm assuming. Unless Crockett owns it by this point, but yeah, it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Plus, I had that awesome Tyree Pride versus Ron Slinker match. We'll talk about that show in more detail when we go to Tampa. It was Sullivan, Mika Singh, and Mark Lewin versus the Road Warriors and Blackjack Mulligan, which is actually a hell of a 6-man. Luger versus Jesse Barr, which is actually a really good match. Great Muta's on this show too.
Great Muta.
Yeah. Versus Denny Brown for the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship, which he lost by DQ. Fuck those guys. So, in current events, Sasha Banks getting stalked at airports? Why don't you tell me a little about that, Matt?
Well, recently there was an article came out, but it kind of covered as well. But there's been a lot of press about wrestlers getting, harassed, and of course, when one mentions it, it gets on Twitter. People start commenting and chiming in. We were talking on the pre-show about. I think there's a real double standard. If a woman complains about it, it's like, oh, come on. The guy does, well, he's an a-hole, or the fans bother, like Seth Rollins has chimed in a couple times over the years about, hey, man, just let us have our life. You don't have to follow us around 24/7. And I think that's the, like people say, oh, it was Bully Ray. It was like about like, don't worry if they're, worry when they're not there at 5 a.m. in the morning at the airport. And I'll tell you this, I live north of Boston. There's a place called the Kowloon. It's a gigantic Chinese restaurant. Well, Polynesian, whatever. They have a bunch of food there. They have a second floor. And it's one of those places after the shows in Boston or in the area, they often go to and just rent the whole second floor out, and they just go and chill out. It's no big deal. And there are fans in the area that go there and try to, like, buddy up. Now, do occasionally people get some autographs, whatever? Yeah. But for the most part, they get locked out because it's a private event. And as well it should be. It's not meant to be a fan event. And I have a friend who used to go every time they came in because she was hoping to hook up with Jericho. And, that's just, It's just sad.
Bully Ray was also the person who, when my friend asked him for the autograph in a show on Long Island, he spit on them. So
He what?
he spit on him.
Did he ask for? Did he say it the right way?
I don't know how. I wasn't there.
Did he not have a pen?
Again,
You got
I
a
wasn't
pen?
there,
No?
but it is, Bully Ray, ECW. He's causing riots at this point.
Yeah.
Take that for what it is, I guess. But in terms of giving wrestlers their privacy, number one, don't be a douche and be at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't be a douche when they tell you no and you call them an asshole. That's not cool either.
Yeah.
If you want your shit autographed, go to there's plenty of fucking autograph signings and conventions that happen all the fucking time. There's like 6 in my area. Do it that way. What's concerning to me at this point is like, what if, one of the female wrestlers, it could happen to a male wrestler too, get attacked or something happens to them. They're traveling at and airports historically are not in the best neighborhoods historically. And if they're being stalked like that, how come the WWE does not provide them with security? And they should.
I think it's one of those things. It's going to take some incident's going to happen. Either someone gets attacked or something happens. And then you're going to see a big change. But it brings to a point, like, how bad do you want that autograph?
Well, these are the guys we're referring to, by the way, are the people that go in airports at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're getting to sign a bunch of shit so they can sell it on eBay. They're not really wrestling fans. They're just looking to make a quick buck. And I think that's where people are getting pissed. You're not talking about, like, the legitimate fan or, like, the 12-year-old kid or, the kid in the wheelchair, right? You're not talking about those guys. They would sign all day for those guys, but anyone else, like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, the guys that want Sasha's underwear.
Yeah, and you have other guys like The Miz, who's like, I'll sign all fucking day. Like, he doesn't care. He likes, he loves being a celebrity, though. It's kind of like Hogan. Imagine Hogan in his day at a fucking airport. Shit must have been insane, but he sat there and fucking signed every single one. You never hear stories online or anywhere about Hogan saying no to an autograph, ever. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I do think that the stalker potential with multimedia as it is, people post where they're going. They don't even do that. Sasha said she doesn't post where airport she fucking flies in. They fucking just find out. Which is even more fucking creepy. Stop doing that shit. Stop waiting out in lobbies and hotels. Stop waiting in the fucking airport. Don't be those fucking dickheads. Right.
Go to the convention. They do like millions of fucking free autograph signings all the fucking time. The autographs are probably not even worth a lot because they're so readily available.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the most I ever spent on an autograph was a Hogan one, but I got to meet him and take pictures with him. And I forget how much that was. But most of the time, autographs are like $25 at some of these shows. They're not even that expensive. Speaking of fucking guys, WWE is going to have a live Monday Night Raw on Christmas Day.
Oh boy.
A lot of the performers are not necessarily too happy about that, and there is a little bit of Twitter outrage out there regarding the fact that they have to work on Christmas.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, people who are outraged on the internet right now, shut the fuck up. And here's why. It sucks that they have to work on Christmas. It's the drizzling shits. They shouldn't have to work on Christmas. But take that outrage you guys are feeling about them having to work on Christmas and channel that to make a positive change. Can we get some wrestlers some benefits here? How about a union? How about healthcare? How about 401k? Maternity leave? All that stuff that you get if you join a union? They don't get any of that shit. So there's no protection for these guys. And the WWE, doesn't give a shit if it has to run on Christmas or not. But instead of being mad about the Christmas part, how about putting some pressure on the WWE to maybe give the wrestlers more benefits? Because not for nothing, a lot of these people, like NXT, when you get to sign to NXT, it's basically a $60,000 downside guaranteed contract. That's it. So they're only guaranteed to make $60,000 a year.
No.
And they pay for no travel. So you do your own trans there, buddy. So, shit, I fucking make more than the majority of the NXT roster. Now, obviously, they make more if they sell merch, they're involved in a video game, all that shit, right?
Right.
Once they get, once they get the substantial pay increase once they get to the main roster. But, it's not like they're making, there's not a whole lot of guys who have $1 million contract. You know what I mean? And football has a union, baseball has a union, hockey, all professional sports have a union, and actors and actresses have a union. They're in fucking SAG. But wrestlers are independent contractors, but apparently they are not that independent, are they? Because you can't work a WWE show on Monday, and if there's no WWE show on Tuesday, you can't go work a Ring of Honor show, now can you? That's not very independent, I don't think. So if you want to put pressure on the WWE, put pressure on that for them. Stop worrying about the fucking nonsense. No one's going to fucking watch that show anyway. They'll probably do a fairly decent attendance there because, as we all remember, back in the territory days, the biggest day of the year was Thanksgiving. But their second biggest day of the year was Christmas Day. And they used to run Christmas Day all the time, especially in the South. Now, if the WWE is running like Greensboro on Christmas Day, they'll probably do a decent house. I don't know where they're running. I know they have to be in Garden on the 26th because they're always at the Garden, Madison Square Garden. Sorry, Matt. Madison Square Garden on the 26th every year, which I might go check out. Maybe I'll get that as a Christmas present because there's nothing like watching wrestling in the Garden. That's the bottom line. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on wrestlers having to work on Christmas Day?
Well, I think it goes back, like you said, to a problem of, is there a demand? Like, are people, I think viewing-wise, are they going, okay, Christmas Day, people are off, they've had a day out, they just want to come home and watch wrestling? Maybe.
It's really tough with the NBA and NFL that run that same day.
Right. But also, with divorce rates, you have people seeing the second family the second half of the day. They're driving, they're traveling. Not only do you have the wrestlers, I can't imagine ticket sales would be phenomenal that day.
Wow. How phenomenal it is. Have you seen pictures of the 2 weeks ago SmackDown?
That was bad.
So I don't know how their ticket sales, their gates are probably down. I would assume based on that picture, it looks fucking down.
I can tell you that with the amount of travel they do, these guys look forward to having a night off or like a time off with family. And now you're cutting into that, and it's for what? To like put on another.
Hey, listen, if they were having a pay-per-view that day, they wouldn't care. Because they would make a bunch of money because they're working a pay-per-view.
Right.
But for a Raw, which also means they have to work on New Year's Day, too. Because New Year's Day is... And they're not like they're getting time and a half, folks. It's not like, my job or Matt's job. We get time and a half for most of those things and what have you. We get holiday pay. They don't get none of that shit. So again, it goes back to my... If you're going to be outraged, be outraged. Be outraged at the right thing. You want to push for not just Christmas, but to make sure they get all their benefit. How about health insurance? Can you do health insurance?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like health insurance like they get hurt in the ring because if they blow out a knee in the ring, they get taken care of. I'm talking about what if Kevin Owens have a cold? He needs to get a fucking prescription somewhere.
Yeah.
They gotta they have to pay full price for their insurance. They're not getting any help from their company. Like the way I have insurance, the way Matt, I'm assuming you have insurance, is that we pay for insurance, but it's a discounted rate because our companies pay a portion of our insurance. That's how it works. Some companies are better than the others, but WWE doesn't pay any. So there you go. Doesn't even give them an option. All right. In addition, I say that way too often. I was editing the last show. I say that 15 times during that show. In addition, I'll say it again. Jeff Jarrett was sent home from Global Force / Impact Wrestling today. Apparently, they were unhappy with some of Jeff's... I don't even know how to put it. Apparently, Jeff and Karen Jarrett had a screaming match with Bob Ryder at the TV taping. Bob Ryder, long time, guy who worked in the office at WCW and TNA and now Global Force, whatever. Right. And then they weren't really happy with the way Jeff looked at Triple Mania. He looked out of shape, stumbling down the stairs, or whatever. The way they made it sound is like Jeff has drug problems. But I don't think Jeff has drug problems. Maybe I don't think he has any problems. I've never heard of anyone saying that Jeff had any kind of personal demons, brother, like that.
Right.
The fact of the matter is their ratings have not increased, even with the new creative team, the new creative direction, and the addition of Jim Cornette. They were hoping for a spike. Let's see what I did there. In ratings, but they didn't get it. To be honest, I think that's the best they were able to do on Pop TV. Pop TV is not a... who the fuck watches Pop TV? You need to get on like a legit cable fucking network.
Yeah.
They tried to find one this year, when unable to find a cable partner, so they had to renew for another year on Pop. So Jeff got sent home. So you don't know about everyone else when it comes to Dutch Mantel, Jim Cornette, Bruce Pritchard, or we don't know if there's going to be a creative shakeup. Apparently, Big John's now in charge. I don't even know who the fuck that is. Apparently, he used to work for WWF too, but I don't really know who that is. I should probably bone up on my Global Force. And then later on in the day, there are rumors circulating that Anthem, the owners of Impact Wrestling, want to sell Impact Wrestling. Now, we don't know if that's a Jarrett stooge trying to stir some shit or whatever. It's very possible at this point that that's the case. I know that Global Force / Impact. It was funny because Impact, TNA, they don't own the name Global Force, apparently. Jeff Jarrett owns that name. You would think if you were going to rebrand your company Global Force, that you would own that name.
So, way.
Yeah, that's not good. So again, the rumor circulating that TNA is up for sale. Again, you're going to have your suitors out there. Would it be a Ring of Honor or a WWE? But other than a tape library, you're not buying anything. Obviously the WWE has a streaming service that could use more content, although they have plenty of content that's not on their network currently. So, but having access to that content is an asset, essentially. So, don't necessarily know if Impact Wrestling is for sale. I heard they're launching a fucking streaming, like a WWE Network Lite product in the near future. I don't know how they make any money because they don't tour.
Yeah.
They don't charge for admission at their shows. When they tried to tour last in the Northeast, they canceled one show and the other shows did shitty. So I don't see anyone walking around with Global Force t-shirts. So I don't think merchandising's out. They're basically getting their revenue from, ad revenue from television. Which, if you're on a smaller network like Pop, you're not making a whole bunch. Although they do have, shows internationally that are probably sustaining them up to this point, but they're not making any money by any stretch of the imagination.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. So I don't think they're up for sale. They might be hemorrhaging money. That might be legitimate because they have some, I wouldn't say high price talent, but higher price talent than say, maybe Ring of Honor. Bobby Lashley's probably costing them a little bit of money. To get him on board. I mean, I'll say this. Ring of Honor is definitely the number 2 company in the United States. I think that's obvious because they actually tour. Like, I was just looking at their dates before. They're going to Philadelphia, they're going to Boston, they're going to Fort Lauderdale, they're going to Dallas, Texas, they're going to Las Vegas, Nevada. Like, they're touring nationally. Their buildings may be small, but they have enough money to tour, and they must be making money off of, house show attendance because they're doing them. So Ring of Honor is clearly the number 2.
What if all those tour dates are other companies using their name because they didn't copyright it?
Ring of Honor, they own their name.
Oh, all right.
They're not that silly. They're owned by television. They're basically owned by a television network.
Okay.
Who even them are notorious. Just look them up. I'm not gonna talk about it on the air, but. Look up the owners of Ring of Honor, and they've done some pseudo questionable things in the past, but that's neither here or there. So, good for you. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Global Force, Impact Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett, and all that types of shenanigans?
I think, one of the big things about wrestling, and it still holds true, a fool and their money is soon parted. There are a lot of people in wrestling that have no right to be there, but they have money so they can get in and do it. And then there are those that have been in there for long enough, that have got enough money laying around, I think he's going to probably come to an end. But again, that's not a winning formula. What they're running right now is not a long-term successful formula. You know, we talked once about, like, well, what's the first thing you need to do if you're expanding a company? You know, if you're opening a promotion up, get TV rights, like get yourself on the air. Got to get that audience. And I think the problem they have is that they don't do a good enough job of building their stars on a social scale. Like, look at Ring of Honor. They do a lot of, you know, interactive stuff, the Young Bucks, you know, interactive stuff. EC3 does a lot, but you don't see enough of them getting, like, super exposure, you know? Like, one thing I've never understood is, like, Sci-Fi makes these crappy movies.
Kurt Angle's in half of them.
Yeah, you could farm guys out left and right and just, you know, have them be part of the show. You know, have them be the you know, second lead honcho or whatever. But you're building something up, and just thinking you can just throw people on there and make it work isn't going to work.
I think they're not as bad. I don't think they're as big as maybe some of us may think they are.
Right.
Like in terms of a wrestling promotion, I don't think they're as big as they think they are. Like, they're very, very small.
Yeah.
There are independent promotions throughout the United States and Europe and Japan who are run better. Wrestle Circus is run better out of Dallas. At Dallas or Houston? No, not Dallas. Dallas or Austin. And there's somewhere in Texas. Well, Wrestle Circus, What Culture Pro. You know, these are companies that are run head and shoulders above Impact Wrestling. That's what I call them. I'm going to call them Impact Wrestling from here on out because the name change is fucked up. They don't have an identity, so they're Impact Wrestling because they don't own the name Global Force. So they're going to be, from here on out, anytime I refer to TNA, Global Force, I'm going to use the term Impact Wrestling. It's WCW, NWA all over again.
Yeah.
And that hurt WCW in the beginning. The moment Crockett sold to Turner, they should have changed the name to WCW and lost any affiliation to the NWA. But they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know any better at the time, folks. But what are you going to do? It was funny today. Like, yesterday, people were wondering if, maybe we should bring Hulk Hogan back. And now today, it's like, they're fucking losing money and they're looking to be sold. It's like, that's a big fucking swing from... Because their creative have been doing better. And I like their TV show. I watched the last couple of weeks of it. And I really do like their TV show. And I will continue to watch their show. But, you know, it's sad to the degree. But there are other wrestling out there. For those of you that, you know, don't think there's other wrestling, you can go out and find it. It's there. You know, I'm very curious about this Major League Wrestling one-shot that they're doing. MLW used to be a promotion down in Florida. Ran by our good friend Court Bauer. You know, it closed several years ago, but they really had some really cool matches on there back in there. I really like that promotion. It was like in the vein of a Ring of Honor, but they used more established stars than Ring of Honor. Like, you saw like Terry Funk's down there, actually like that, right? But they're doing a one-shot, and the main event is Ricochet versus Shane Strickland, which I think is really, really cool. There's also MVP versus Sami Callihan and Jeff Cobb versus Tom Lawler. Tom Lawler. There's no it's OR, not ER. I think that's going to be fun. And if it's available to stream or something like that, I will definitely watch it moving forward. So there's other good wrestling out there. You can always watch New Japan. Looks like they'll be running more in the States. We confirmed that last week. Talking about how they're going to run more shows in the United States. And Rip Rogers on Twitter, I don't think he knows that New Japan is on in the States, because someone asked him a question about, well, don't feel bad about TNA because, you know, New Japan can be the alternative. It's like, no promotion will get over, they don't have weekly TV. It's like, they have TV in the States. It's just 6 months behind. And they have a streaming service that, you know, if I wanted to, I could watch New Japan Wrestling right now if I wanted to. Because they have New Japan World. That's their version of the WWE Network, and there's quite a bit of English commentary on there. And they picked up anyone who is a, you know, indie star is on their show. So the Young Bucks are on there, Omega's on there. You know, Japan's where it's at right now. If New Japan ran a show in the tri-state area up here in New York, I would go. I was supposed to go the last time they run here, I think 2011, 2010. when they ran in conjunction with Jersey All Pro. I was supposed to go, but I couldn't make it. Well, if they ran, I went to Global Wars here when Jushin Liger wrestled in the Hammerstein. New Japan could do the Hammerstein easy, no problem. They could fill it.
Oh, yeah.
So, what are you going to do there? So, guys, we are running out of time, so make sure you catch us on our next show. It will be the television taping preparing for our next big show in Mexico.
Dun-dun-dun.
That's right. We are going down to EMML to check out some Mexican wrestling in 1983. The main event of that show will be Harley Race taking
Mil
on...
Mascaras.
What?
Mil Mascaras.
I thought about Mil Mascaras, but he wasn't going to do a job in fucking Mexico, so it's going to have to be Blue Demon. So it's going to be Harley Race versus Blue Demon. Perro, Aguyo versus El Santo, and Mil Mascaras fighting someone that he's not going to job to. Because he doesn't do jobs. Mil Mascaras doesn't do jobs or sell. So,
Good guy.
there's that. Body slam Mountain J. John, you have no shits. I wanted to add more luchadors to the show, but unfortunately the survey for WWE 2K16 no longer exists. So I cannot download any new wrestlers. I wanted to download Al Connect and Dr. Wagner Jr. And I was unable to do so. So there's going to be a lot more Americans on this show than I would like. Maybe I'll put more Japanese wrestlers on the show. And Carlos Colon.
Nice.
So we're going to talk all about Mexican wrestling and the history of EMML. Again, it's the forerunner to CMML.
Yeah.
I actually had to go back and redo their logo. I had to Photoshop their logo to add an E and get rid of the C. Because there is no logo for EMML. So there you go.
There it is.
There it is. So pretty stoked about that. So I need to start doing some research on some Lucha Libre. So. So guys, in the comment section, please put in your choice for a potential Hogan killer or a top performer that could compete with Hulk Hogan on a national level in 1984, and we'll discuss it. I have my pick, but you're not going to see that until we get to our Shea Stadium show, and then that will be revealed. Because he'll be winning the belt at Shea Stadium, which kind of sucks because that means we have to cut that Ric Flair title run short.
Boo.
Because that one's going to be like WrestleMania in April. There you go. All right, so for Matt Riley, I'm Juan.